Welcome into the draft club, Paige Dimakos and Keith Sanchez. Obviously, Keith is not here with me in studio. He's back in New Orleans, okay, and he's trying to match the background. That's what we've decided on with what's going on in New Orleans today. But Keith, how you feeling? It's almost NFL Combine time.
Yeah, NFL Combine combined with Mardi Gras. It's good times. It's good vibes out here, right? Live on too late. That means let the good times roll. So let's have some fun.
I didn't know we were going to pull out French words on today's podcast. I didn't know that was going to be a part of today. Oh, okay. All right. You gotta he's gonna be missing Mardi Gras, he told me, but he's still got a little bit of Mardi Gras this weekend. So we're gonna argue about Mardi Gras on a separate podcast. That'll be at a later time. We're not gonna do that today. We're not gonna do that
Even
today.
though there's
We're gonna
nothing to argue about.
Yeah, there's nothing to argue about. He says we're gonna start off today with the hottest topic going into the NFL Combine week. That's not about the combine, and it's
Yep.
about a superstar quarterback. Superstar quarterback that might be on the move. So Keith, will Matthew Stafford be an LA Ram next year? Yes or no?
Yes, and he should be, right? I understand from GM Lesney's perspective, maybe you want to see if one of these desperate quarterback teams, right? If they'll throw the entire kitchen sink at you and you can walk away with 2 or 3 first round picks, right? But I don't think the Los Angeles Rams move off of him. And this is the reason why. You look in the playoffs, right? They had the Philadelphia Eagles kind of to the brink, right? Like that playoff game was close and that was in the snow. And I think a healthy Los Angeles Rams football team is a top 3 team in the NFC. I think you have a veteran in Matthew Stafford. You have a proven coach in Sean McVay, right? There are reports and rumors that they're going to move off of Cooper Cup, but I believe that they can insert somebody else into that situation with Puka Nakua. And then they got the young running back, Kyron Williams. So I think that the Los Angeles Rams should not be trying to move off of people. I think they should be trying to double down because you made it to the divisional round, you lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions, and you took them to the brink at home in 8 inches of snow, right? So I think that Matthew Stafford will be back. I think he should be back, and I think look out for the Los Angeles Rams for Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, this one kind of threw me off, honestly, when
Yep.
I first saw it. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense considering Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, had played one of his best seasons. And at the beginning of the year, you had his top two. He had both Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup hurt.
Hmm.
They would have been a top seed if they had
Yep.
had these guys healthy throughout the season. And like you said, the Chiefs got their ass whooped in the Super Bowl, but this was a team that took these guys to the brink, that Philadelphia Eagles team. So I don't understand this. I don't know if it's just now part of this is the contract renegotiation, right? So this partially on Stafford's camp wanting to renegotiate his current contract, wanting them to have more money. Obviously, the salary cap going up, that's also a part of this conversation, right? They're seeing some of the other quarterback contracts and going, hey, we've got a top 5 player who's not making top 5 money. And I get it from that perspective. But at the same token, something that I have to give the GM and the head coach credit for is something that I haven't seen done. And that is they allowed the agent and Stafford to go seek out what his market value will be on the outside.
Hmm.
And I think this is being done to not to prove a point, but more so to just let him come back with tangible numbers. Not numbers that are pie in the sky, not Dak Prescott numbers. You
You
know I was
always throwing
going
my
there.
guy in there. My guy always
Listen,
catching strays. All he did was sign the contract. That's all Dak did was sign the
all
contract.
he did was become the highest paid quarterback, get hurt, and not play the whole season again.
Okay.
Just
All
saying.
right.
It can't, it's not. And if he had done the same thing, if they had forced Dak to do the same thing in Dallas, they would have negotiated against real numbers, better numbers. And they would have still paid Dak Prescott a lot of money, but they wouldn't be giving him $89 million. He wouldn't be taking up that percentage of the cap. And I think it's a good lesson to see how it works, right? And it takes a lot of trust, and it honestly takes a lot of guts on their side, because losing Stafford would be a big loss for the LA Rams, because I don't believe in any of the quarterbacks coming out that enough to say that they will be Matthew Stafford when they get to
Yeah.
the league. No
So
chance.
I have a question. You have experience, right? Having worked in NFL locker rooms, information like this, right? Because it seems to be calculated, but I want to
Mhm.
ask you. Usually, when stuff comes prefaced like this, is it from the Los Angeles Rams side? Is it from the agent side? Who wants it out, right? Like
Uh-huh.
how do these type of situations usually break down?
So when it first came out, it
Yeah.
definitely was from the agents. That's definitely coming from, because whenever you have to look at any information that's coming out with this is being released for a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was being released to make the Rams organization feel heat and look stupid because from the original reaction, it's how the hell are they going to get rid of Stafford? Right.
Uh-huh.
That was the initial report. That's the initial reaction. That's coming from the agent. That's coming from that camp. Then you've got the other side that comes back out that comes from front office ownership and that reporting, right? So you kind of had both sides, but the initial report definitely came from the agent side, 100%. And anytime an organization is meant to look bad, you can rest assured there is an agent somewhere trying to make that team look bad. That's the number one group of people that are trying to keep the teams accountable. And listen, it's all part of the process. Everybody's got a role, everybody's got a job. And I think if I'm the LA Rams, I'm doing whatever the hell it takes to keep Matthew Stafford. I don't care how he should get paid more money. He's worth it. I
Yeah.
don't. I think you want to renegotiate the contract. You want to put him somewhere in the top five range because he's been top five quarterback,
Yeah.
and for
When
the next 2 years. And don't come at me with that Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get him and try and run that back. What part of watching Aaron Rodgers last year made you think he would be better than Matthew Stafford? I don't
Yeah, nah,
understand that.
I'm out on that from a locker room perspective, right? I don't want
Yes,
Aaron Rodgers anywhere near my
no chance.
franchise, especially if I'm trying to win football games, because I don't know if he takes it serious at this point, right? But I know one
No,
thing we do believe, and that's we believe in paying Matthew Stafford. And one reason
we
they
do.
should be able to pay Matthew Stafford, Paige Dimakos, is because their salary cap went up, right? I think upwards of $33 million. So dollar bills, y'all, is a whole lot of money flowing. But I want to ask this, right? What does that mean for the contenders, right? Do you have a take when you look at the contenders and what that means for them?
Yeah, this is great news for the contenders because you have had unprecedented growth over the last 5 years for the NFL, double digit growth across the board that's led to the cap going up at a clip that's it's never happened, right?
Yeah,
It's never happened. Unprecedented growth. And what they're looking at is international growth, and it doesn't look like this is going to stop, right? So that is good news if you are the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, all these teams that are kind of up against the cap now looking at this going, could we maybe get T. Higgins if we're Buffalo? Could we maybe go get, okay, it's going to go up at a higher clip than we even projected? That's big time news because the teams have to prepare for the cap to stay the same. They do. And that's what they do prepare for. So then it's like getting bonus money. You know, when you find a $20 bill in your pants and you forgot that it was there? That's what
yep,
this is like. It's like you pull that money out, it's like free money, baby. All of a sudden you got cash you didn't even know you had. That's how this feels for these NFL teams because they prepared not to have it because they had to, and now they do have it. So the contenders, unfortunately, the rich get richer. Philadelphia is kind of the standard. You've heard some NFL players, including Joe Burrow, make reference to, hey, we should pay people like Philadelphia is doing. Yeah, seems like the owners are going to get put pressure on to actually pull out those checkbooks. So we'll see if it actually happens because the Brown family in Cincinnati has never done that. So we'll see if Joe gets his way. We'll see if Joe
yeah.
gets
They
his
they
way.
better listen to my guy Joe Shiesty, right? They better listen to him. But I'm gonna go ahead with this, right? And you kind of hit on it. I'm gonna just be a lot more aggressive in the tone and the tenor of this, right? And that's the owners, GMs. Y'all have no excuses. Point blank, no excuses not to get the job done. If you're the Buffalo Bills, right, there's no excuse not to be aggressive in the offseason. You've seen what Philadelphia did. Y'all probably had an opportunity to get Saquon Barkley. You passed it up in the name of the salary cap. Well, guess what? Paying attention to the salary cap got your ass sent home once again, right? So now the moving the needle, the threshold is to guess what? Be aggressive, right? Be aggressive in the offseason. Make that trade. Go knock on a couple doors, flip over a couple tables, right? Leave no stone unturned. You want to walk into next year with the best NFL roster. And I say this: when the Philadelphia Eagles kicked off the football, right? This starting NFL season, they were the best team in football and they were the
Yep.
last team standing. So I think you take a chapter out of what the Philadelphia Eagles did. You look where the salary cap was able to elevate, right? And those teams sitting around that threshold of like, hey, what pieces do we need to get better? I think you have to go all in, and there's no excuses. The Philadelphia Eagles showed you that.
No, and I think it's funny to hear other people talk about Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner in Philadelphia, like this is some magic sauce that they have
No,
that
it's not.
everybody else doesn't have access to. No, it's called using your cash and using it all the way, right? Making sure you go in and you go, yeah, Saquon Barkley, superstar running back. Yeah, okay. New York doesn't want you. Yeah, come on down. Come on
Yeah,
down.
and
Because
it's
because
those.
we that everybody has the same amount of money to work with. That's why you can't complain. Everybody, there is a salary cap, meaning everybody has the same equal opportunity to pay the players, and some choose not to. And this is why Joe Burrow, I love that Joe has studied the cap enough to understand and talk the language in front of the media to put pressure on ownership, because guess what? They can keep everybody. They
Yep.
can make it happen, and they have to do it, and they have to be strategic, and they have to involve their superstar quarterback who has made it clear he wants to win. He wants to win a Super Bowl, and he will do what it takes. So guess what? Do it. Now the Brown family, oh, I can't wait to watch this offseason. I cannot wait. Because if this doesn't happen in Cincinnati, it's going to get really loud for that Brown family. And they keep crying poor. And checks notes, everybody's organization is worth multiple billions of dollars. You're not poor. Full stop. Full stop on the BS. I'm not allowing it anymore.
Yeah, no, they have to get that going. And I wish what we're gonna do is what heading into next year, we're gonna have a little rapid fire situation of the teams that we believe are real or not, right? And this is gonna tell them, right? We're gonna be able to know if NFL owners or if NFL franchises, GMs are actually trying to win damn football games or not. And
Yep.
we'll be able to tell in the offseason, obviously with free agent pickups, right? Trades, things like that. But there's two sides of this page, Dimakos, and there's the draft, and we have the NFL combine starting, right? And year in and year out, we have players, right? They run 4.2s, 4.3s, or they jump out the gym, right? And then fans gravitate towards that, right? And we get the Henry Ruggs situation, the Darius Hayward Bay situations, the Byron Jones when he broke almost the Olympic record, right? And these guys fly up draft boards. But we're right here on the NFL combine. And I want to ask you this question. What should fans actually pay attention to the NFL combine? Because we've seen this big event steer people the wrong way, get GMs to
Yep.
make bad decisions, owners to make bad decisions, and fans fall in love with the wrong players. So what should they pay attention to?
So I'm going to lead this off with a quote from one of my favorite coaches, Bruce Arians. While I was sitting in the box with him watching the combine in Indianapolis. And I said, Coach, what's your favorite part of watching the combine? And he said, Paige, I don't learn shit about football players running in shorts. Okay. And I say that to say the combine has a level of importance, but it is not more important than the tape. It does not supersede the football that you have watched these players put on tape for years, right? And that's the stuff that gets teams caught up. It's the stuff that gets teams in trouble. And it's the stuff like moments with Anthony Richardson, right? Where everybody gets caught up in the athleticism, but forgets the football, right? And you can't, it's not that it's not important. It's that it's not more important than the football. And it's not close. The football is the most important part by far. The character, second. And this stuff, there are certain events that are very important. Obviously, you want your guys, if you see somebody come out and they run, a 4.9, a running back that's supposed to run a 4.4, yeah, we could be a little nervous about that, obviously. But those are things that don't really happen. The stuff that you need to pay attention to, for the most part, you need to watch their speed. You need to watch some of the cone drills, depending on which position you're looking at. You need to, for offensive linemen, you're looking at the bench press, right? You like to pay attention to what those guys are doing on the bench. You like to see some of their flexibility. Quarterbacks, you want to see them throw. But quarterbacks are never going to see throwing where there's nobody playing against them. This isn't the same as game action, right? So it's hard to, I think the quarterback position is the one I learned the least from at the combine, quite frankly. I think I care the least amount about what I'm watching with quarterbacks, and I care more about every other position, which I know is backwards for fans, but that's what I'm telling you. Fans, don't pay attention to the quarterbacks. This class is heavy on the D line, the running backs, the offensive line. Like, pay attention to the trenches, pay attention to some of the other positions, because you don't really learn a whole lot about the QBs at the combine. And quite frankly, I don't want people to not care about the combine, but I don't want them to forget everything that happened before that. And we live in a recency bias society, and it seems like it's getting caught up every year. A team gets caught in these moments. What for on the scouting side? What is the number one thing you pay attention to?
Yeah, you already know, right? I have to go to my three letters that I've coined in the draft draft space, WTF, right? Watch the film, man. That's what it goes down to. And you have to look at this from a perspective of confirmation, right? Like if you believe a guy is really fast, what does his 40 time look like, right? If you believe a guy is slow, what does his 40 time look like? So I only go to the combine for confirmation purposes, right? Like, does he run somewhere in the range of what I thought that he would run, right? And then you talk about the position drills that happen, right? How fluid of a mover is a person, right? I think about the defensive backs. They probably have one of the most telling drills when they have to flip their hips 3 different times, right? And then go deep and go get the football. It tells you everything you need to know how fluid a defensive back is, how he's able to high point a ball, how he's able to track a football, things like that. So I think that's what you want to look for. It's more so the position drills, even more so than, like you said, the 3 cone and things like that, because that's the stuff that translates to football, right? Like training for 2, 3 months for L cone that they have down to a science. That's not football, right? It's just not, it's not football at the end of the day. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. I always look at it for confirmation. Like I told you, I always go back to WTF, watch the film, man. And that's where I end up at.
And the other thing that's really important that happens here that isn't really publicized, it's not because there's not a way to really showcase this, but it's the medicals, guys. That's from the NFL's perspective, there are two things that are happening that the fans don't see. It's the medical testing that's happening because at the end of the day, you need to know the schools lie about all the injuries. So the NFL has zero trust in what's coming out information wise. So all these players are getting medically tested. That's a big part. And the second part and the most important part is the interviews that these players are having with the NFL teams. This is the most amount of time that they get with these players. They have multiple interviews on multiple days. And that's the part, unfortunately, the fans, you guys don't get to see any of that. But those interviews are the things that happen behind the scenes that are very important, which is why Draft Club is going to be doing some of our own interviews out there with players, bringing that content to you guys because the NFL teams aren't going to show you that, but we will. So we'll be talking to some of these players all throughout the week, putting out some content so you guys can get to know these guys because that's a big part of this. They're looking at these players going, okay, we want to get to know you. You're going to be a part of this team. You're going to be a part of this organization. Who are you? What's your football character? Right. And that's a big part of this and a big part of the conversation that happens over the next week.
Yeah, 100%. One of those conversations, a lot of the conversation, I'll say that, is going to be around Colorado's wide receiver, cornerback, Travis Hunter. And what are the expectations for Travis Hunter going into there, right? He said he's going to work out at defensive back. I thought which was a rather interesting choice. So
Yep.
I want to ask you, when you enter, obviously we're going to Indianapolis, entering the combine, what are the expectations for Travis Hunter?
Oh man, I think it's going to be a circus. I think it's going to be a circus for Travis Hunter. Um, that first and foremost, this is going to be the first time most of the media, if not all of the media, gets a look at Travis Hunter, right? Most of this media, you're talking about the NFL media, not college football, not small towns in Colorado. But like, this is a different animal. This is the first time when he steps to the podium, there's going to be more people sitting around waiting for him to talk than that. You remember last year with Caleb Williams, it's going to be the same scenario this year for Travis Hunter. How does he answer those questions? He's going to get asked some stupid stuff. Like he's going to get asked, this might be the combine where I roll my eyes more than I ever have before at the questions that are getting asked because we're going to get a lot of not football questions, right? We're going to get the girlfriend and the off the field, and we're going to get all that stuff. I think the other part of the expectations are how he looks in person to a lot of people that have not seen him in person. And that's I think that's the biggest football thing that's going to happen is being a cornerback in college is not the same as being a corner in the NFL. Being a shutdown corner against Devontae Adams across from you is not what Travis Hunter's been doing. Not to take away, he's been unbelievable. But playing at the schools he played at, in the conferences they played, like it's not even close, right? It's not close. It's a different ball game. And I thought you and I talked about it. I thought he was going to come in and line up and do wide receiver stuff. I was kind of surprised at him coming in to do and lining up and working out as a corner. But I think the big thing is what does he look like in person? I think that's going to be a big thing for media looking at him, getting a feel for him in real time because I think there's going to be a little shock value at him not being as big as some people think in person. So we'll see. What do you think is going to happen for Travis? I saw you laugh because I think you and I we've talked about this off the air, but I have a feeling people are going to be like, "Ooh, he's a little smaller, little slimmer than I thought in real life." I don't know if that's going to work in the league.
Yeah, and there's so many thoughts with Travis. But let's start at the very top, right? That you talk about the critique part, and that's the thing that you mentioned. I think for him, and I mean we have to talk about it, right? Because as a part of his profile, the last time we heard Travis Hunter, right, was the whole situation with his girlfriend, right, his
Yep.
significant other, right, and then
Yep.
everything kind of died off. There was no more football to be played. There was no more Heisman trophies to be won. Nothing as that, right? So what I feel like happens is it's out of sight, out of mind. I think it's
Yeah.
going to pick right back up from there. You can expect a reporter to ask him about his significant other. Now, how does that apply to the NFL and the NFL combine? It doesn't at all. But guess what? You have to understand the game that they're trying to get clicks, right? So they want to do something, poke and prod at you to get you to react. I think the other thing that I'm going to be paying attention to Travis Hunter is how does he react to the negativity?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these times with these superstar athletes, right? They're liked for majority of their life, right? And that's even right now, and that's post career, right? They don't know, they usually don't understand how to handle I don't like you, right? People just
Yeah.
not liking you. And I want to see how does he react to that in person. Because there's going to be somebody that tested him, right? And when you talk about that situation at Colorado, just because he was playing at Colorado, right? And Travis was usually, not even usually, he was the lot less calmer, right? He didn't say anything, kind of stayed the hell out of the way. But
Hmm.
you're almost guilty by association when your head coach is Deion Sanders and then your quarterback is Shedeur, and they talk a lot of shit, right? They just go
Yep.
ahead and loop you into that trio of those guys. And I want to see just how he's going to handle the in-person stuff of people not caring for him or people trying to
Yeah.
push him close to the limit. And then the on the field performances. I want to see if he's actually going to perform. I would like to see him work out at defensive back. I think that what we're going to see from the on the field part is that it's so tough to play both sides of the football, right?
Hmm.
And I think what we're going to see is that there are some developmental things that need to happen with Travis at the cornerback position. I think
Yep.
he chose cornerback because if you think about playing both sides, it's easier to practice at corner and then get 15, 20 snaps in the NFL at wide receiver because you just have to run your route, right? But when you play on the defensive side of the football, you have to operate as a cohesive unit, right? If you're not playing
Hmm.
man, that means you're playing in tandem with somebody else in zone. And I think that's why Travis is saying, hey, I'm going to come in as a corner. So then that way he can say, hey, I'm going to learn corner. And then I'm naturally gifted enough to play the wide receiver position, even though I'll be on record. I think Travis Hunter is better as a wide receiver. I think he should play wide receiver. I think he is a wide receiver. My NFL comp for him at wide receiver is Jerry Jeudy. I think he's somewhere in that bucket of a football player. So that's how I look at it.
I think we've talked about this a lot, and having him be a wide receiver. I'm actually surprised, and maybe we'll get some of this coming out of the combine, that he hasn't been told more from the league, because the people that I've talked to have all said the same thing, right? And it's mostly there's a reluctance to him being able to play being scheme dependent, right? Being able to handle both sides, being able and as much as I get what he's been able to do in college, it's not realistic or practical to think that he will play both sides of the ball in the NFL long term. It's just not practical. He may have they may put him in, have offensive snaps for him. He may not play corner at all. He has to be prepared to come to this workout and come out of this with NFL organizations telling him, we're drafting you as a receiver. That is a very that can happen. We're drafting you as a corner. These are very plausible things, because you said something that stuck with me. Because if he gets hurt and you've got your top receiver and your top corner, now you're taking two guys out, you realize that becomes a huge problem for an NFL team, right? You cannot have that happen. And that's why I think it's not very realistic to think that that will happen. I think it's more likely he gets special teams options, they put packages together for him, and they get really creative. But you got to hope that that team has a great system. And we know the top teams that are drafting traditionally don't have the best coaching staffs, or their new coaching staffs, and they're just trying to figure it out, right? Or they're holding on for dear life if you're the New York Giants, right? Just trying to make it to the next season. So this is going to be a very interesting test with Travis, because he has not been seen by a lot of the people that are going to see him. And I'm going to be very curious at what the conversation is coming out of this week when we get to next week and we record another episode. Are we going to be talking about how Travis Hunter really stole the show, or are we going to be talking about how Hunter was underwhelming? I don't know. Could be both ways, and I feel like either way could happen.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think honestly, I think some people are gonna place the bar so high so he can fall under the bar, right? I
Right.
think if he runs a 4.35, people are gonna say, "Oh, I thought he was a 4.3 guy," right? I think that
Hmm.
people are gonna elevate the bar so high so he can fail. But I want to go back to the point, right? When we talked about the injury part of this. And this is obviously not projecting injury on no athlete. I hope every
No,
athlete plays
never.
for as long as they want to play injury free, right? No injuries. But I have to put myself because I've sat in those rooms, right? When we talk about making decisions on rosters. If I'm an NFL general manager, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, okay, cool. I'm gonna draft this guy, and you're telling me that the reason I'm drafting him is because he's a number one wide receiver and a number one corner, right? And we talked about the injury portion of this. That if Travis Hunter gets hurt, you lose your number one wide receiver and your number one corner. Let me go ahead and put this into realistic expectations or context for NFL fans. Dallas Cowboys fans. That's the equivalent of you using Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb. Philadelphia Eagles fans. That's the equivalent of you losing Darius Slay and AJ Brown, right? And we can go on and on. That's the equivalent for 49ers fans, right? Losing their starting corner plus a Debo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. You're losing two of your top guys just with one injury. So now how do I construct my roster moving forward, right? Like who
Yeah.
else do I pay to bring another guy on? I think NFL general managers, and you said this, the body profile is going to be very important because they're going to want to know from a frame perspective, how can he hold up? I remember watching Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley was 200 pounds, built well, right? Like built
Yep.
for that. If you come in at 185 and you're pushing the limits of 185, how can I expect you to play 150 snaps, hold up physically, tackle Derrick Henry, and then go on the other side, right? And then have to run routes against some of the best corners in the NFL. It is a very daunting task to ask. Like in Big 12 and SWAC, right? I'm a SWAC guy, went to Southern, so this is no shots at him. But this ain't that, right?
Yeah.
SWAC, Colorado, Big 12 is not the NFL at the end of the day.
No. Derrick Henry, sorry. Like I'm thinking about my man's trying to tackle Derrick Henry, and I'm
Yeah,
not.
and
I'm
listen,
thinking it's not going to go so well.
I'm all for him throwing his body in there, right? But I can't tackle Derrick Henry. I need a break after that, right? I need to go on the sideline. I need some water, and I don't need to go back on the field, right? Now I got to run routes, right? You need to mentally get yourself together after you attempt to tag Derrick Henry, right? And let alone if he puts you in the dirt, then now you all the way mentally screwed up. But praise the mother. We talked about the trio, right? And we talked about Shedeur playing a fact in that. And I want to talk about QB1 and QB2 in this draft because that's more headlines. And I think this is, if I had to project, this is going to get ugly. I think this may get uglier than the Travis Hunter situation because I think there are going to be underlying tones that have nothing to do with football, and that like word and who would they would be compared to as far as I won't say stereotypes, but I think there's going to be a bucket of that. I think it's going to be a bucket of who Shador is as far as his bravado. I think it's going to rub a lot of people wrong. I think Cam Ward, how he presents himself, is going to rub a lot of people wrong, and I think they're going to make it not about the football. I have to be honest.
Yeah. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think Shador is going to come out as QB1 of the week. And I think that be based off of some of the information about how he's interviewed, how he's carried himself, and how he's going to be able to operate separate of his dad. This is his opportunity to be Shedeur Sanders, not Deion Sanders' son, right? And I think that's he has done, and what I've heard is he's been very impressive, separate of in one-on-one conversations, totally separate. And I think this is going to be a very big opportunity for him because that has not happened yet. Everything that's been discussed is about him and Dion, and this is the first shot.
No, we talked about this, right? And I think that Shador is very capable. Like I said this, that I think he's capable of handling himself in a well-mannered way outside of his fault. I told you, this is how it is, right? It's like if you know, if we show up to a basketball game and you talking shit, right? I can't not talk shit either. You know what I'm saying? Like, we both got to be all in, right? If Draft Club talking shit, we talking shit today.
Yeah,
So
if
I
I
can't.
start something, you're gonna have to follow right behind me, Keith.
Yeah,
That's
we
the expectation.
we got to finish it, and I think that's the situation with his father. But I want to. I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but I want to ask this: the nitpicking, right? Like if he walks around with the
Okay,
Jacob.
so yeah, so I get where you're headed. Let me finish with this part of it, right? So I think Shador is going to come out as QB1 because I think the nitpicking and the backlash is going to happen with Cam Ward at a level that we haven't seen. And it's because it already started. He already said something controversial. He already said, if teams that don't draft me, they're going to regret it. He already threw gasoline on the fire. And that's the part that Shedeur is the part that Dion has to be credited for is Dion has prepared Shedeur for these moments to handle himself in a way that NFL teams, he knows what they have to say. He does. He knows how to handle himself. And Shedeur, yes, while he can come across and have some of the stereotypes that we know get thrown, especially at black quarterbacks that we hate, right? The way it comes across, the way it's spoken about. I am already sick of hearing about Jackson Dart, right? I'm already sick of it because it's already okay. Insert average white quarterback that we have to talk about to insert him amongst the top guys, and it happens nearly every year since I've been covering the sport. But the stuff with Cam, I think, is going to become the juxtaposition between those two guys. I think Shador's going to come out unscathed, and I think Cam's going to take a lot of the heat, quite frankly. And right now, it's more Cam Ward QB1 than it is Shedeur right now. And I think coming out of this week, it's going to be more Shedeur. That's just it. That's my guess. That's my best guess at how this week's going to go.
Yeah, so I have them ranked that way, right? Shador, then Cam. But I think both of them, I'll say this, they're severely underrated as quarterback prospects. I think they compare right in the bunch of first round quarterbacks we've seen over the last 5 years. I think they're right in there, to be completely honest. What I was going to get into was that I wonder how much, because I think what you were getting at was that Shador is kind of gonna, polish some things up, right? But the dislike for these two quarterbacks for reasons that are not associated to football, and similar reasons to why people like Zach Wilson, and similar reasons to why people like Jackson Dart and Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert, right? I think people are going to nitpick. And my question was, could it be something as simple as Shedeur Sanders wearing a bust down Rolly, a bust down Jacobs that is triggering, right? To where people are saying that's not the type of guy that we want as our NFL franchise quarterback. Could you see it being something as small and detailed as that?
I absolutely can, 100%. But what I anticipate to happen is I think the Sanders camp is going to come in very prepared. That's what I
Okay.
think is happening. I think Shador is going to come in and surprise people based off of how he handled Super Bowl week. And a
So
lot of people and how he conducted. If you heard some of the interviews that he did, it was a different tone. It's a different way that and I think
see,
that's the
that
part that I'm
tone,
going. He's going to handle
I
himself
think that's the
differently.
part that bothers me. I don't think it's a different tone. I just think it's who he's always been, but nobody
Yeah.
wanted to listen to him, right? Everybody wanted
Well,
to,
for sure.
yeah, they want to visually look at him and not listen to what the young man is saying.
But here's the other part that we have, and I agree with you. But
Yeah,
when Dion is talking all that ish, it's impossible for people to not like because it's the projection on Shador of what his
yeah,
dad, and that's why I'm happy that this is because Dion ain't getting drafted, guys.
right.
Shador's getting drafted, and that's the part that I'm like, who is Shedeur Sanders? None of us know. We all know Dion's son. I want this kid to have the opportunity to be totally separate of his dad and be able to come out there and do that. And I think he set himself up for that, and it will be a true test of that, right? Does Dion stay out of the way? Does Dion make headlines this week and cause
Yeah,
controversy?
of course he
That
does.
could happen, and he could
Listen,
overshadow all of this by putting his foot in his mouth. I have no idea. I am expecting and hoping will happen is he will be strategic about it because he knows how to play the game. Dion has done a very good job of playing that, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he makes headlines. You're laughing because you don't think he's going to be strategic, and that's telling me that apparently Dion's going to put his foot in his mouth, and we're going to be talking about it next week. Okay.
I think he's going full go. I think expect Arch Manning that situation, expect that. And I'm not talking about Arch Manning, the quarterback. I'm talking about Arch Manning, the grandfather, right? To
Yeah.
dictate this situation. I told you, I think that this where this is going to go.
But
Dion
that
is going
was
to tell
all
the
behind the scenes though. Like that wasn't like out
yeah, no,
loud. Like
but
you
I'm with you. But the problem is this: Dion hasn't met a camera and a microphone that he don't like. Right? There's not a camera microphone that he said no to, and he's not afraid of speaking his mind. And when you just look at the different documentaries and everything else, he's so convicted in his own faith, right? And there's no problem with that. Everybody should live with this type of
don't he have
conviction.
shit to do in Colorado? Like, don't he have stuff to do? Doesn't he got a coach or something? Isn't he responsible for I don't know 105 young men
You
somewhere
always
else?
got time. You always got time for your children, man. You always got time for your
Eh,
children. I think he's gonna make some time for that. But I think it's gonna make for some interesting headlines. I think it's gonna be fun, and I think that's the narratives probably coming out of the combine, right? When you talk about just setting the tone. But Paige Dimakos, we've been doing this for a minute, right? We've been in football for a while. We've been going to the
mhm.
combine for a while. The
Yes.
combine has been going on for a very long time. I want you to recollect, right, and think. I'm gonna talk about some of the best moments in NFL
Uh,
combine history that you have. I don't know if you have one at the top of mind.
I do. I
I
do.
have one. You want to go first?
Yeah, I do have I have one right off the top of my on my mind. This was I believe 2019.
Is
I'm
this
almost
Chicago
yeah.
Bears related in
No,
any?
it's not. Come on. Why you gotta talk shit before I even get it out? You won't even let me speak my piece before you're already got something to say. Okay, this has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with the Chicago Bears. It
All
has
right, let's
everything to
see.
do with the physical specimen that DK Metcalf is.
Okay,
Okay. And I will never forget DK walking into the room full of media people and people looking at him, and you just see this dude and you're like, yeah, we're not the same. You are physically so much like he just was so like such a physical freak when he came in and everybody was just looking at him and then he went out and ran the 40 time that he ran and everybody was losing their minds. Everybody was losing their minds. And that goes back to an OG draft network kind of opportunity for me to brag on the longevity of the company and how long we've been doing this. But we had a first round grade on him then and man, does that look good.
yep.
Man, does that look good because he dropped in the draft. The Seahawks ended up getting him in the third round. But that speed, the conversation around him and everybody saying, "Oh, all he can do is run in a straight line. That's all he could do." Yeah, okay. Y'all look like idiots now. So DK Metcalf will forever be my combine moment because it was my first year with Draft Network, and it was one of those like holy cow, that dude's a freak. I remember it like it happened yesterday, and I laughed at all watching all the media people kind of looking around at each other like, yeah, they're all sizing each other up trying to figure out like, oh my god, why are we all so much smaller than DK? I was like, yeah guys, he's the football player, y'all are not. Very clearly, very clearly.
That's how they go. I'm actually going with another performance by a wide receiver. I think this was 2006, Kelvin Johnson. And I don't know if you
Oh
remember this.
yeah. Oh
Remember,
yeah.
he wasn't even going to run the 40, and he
Mm-hmm.
made his mind up at the very last minute, and he borrowed some shoes from somebody else. Was like, hey, is this a size whatever, right? Size 12. I can
Yep.
fit those. You know what? I'm about to run, right? I haven't been stretching, but 2 minutes. I'm about to just go give it a go. And at what 6'5", 6'6", 230 pounds, just
Yep.
getting up and deciding I'm gonna run a 40 and then put down a 4.3. I remember watching, I might have been 14, 15 years old, and I was just
Yep.
like, damn, that's different. Right? To
Yeah.
be that big, to move that fast out of Georgia Tech, a triple option dude.
Megatron.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Megatron, baby.
that's
He's
where he
so
got the name.
special.
Yeah, that's where he got the name Megatron from. And I think for me, that's probably a highlight moment. That's probably the combine moment that I always remember because you just remember even the guys like Rich Eisen, they were kind of scrambling, right? Like, wait, is he going to do this? Is he really doing this? And it's like, yep, he's doing it, and he did it, and he did it very damn fast. So,
That's
I look
OG.
at
That's OG right there. That's like that's some crazy like your unc's up there and it's like talking shit like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna put my sneaks on and go run." That's what he did. It was out of nowhere. Like nobody expected it, and still probably one of the most underappreciated superstars in the NFL in NFL history, honestly.
100%, 100%. I'll say this too, because you gave a personal mic drop moment, right? My mic drop moment was 2019, sitting in the stands, right? And I was with quite a few NFL scouts. And I'm gonna roll through this list of guys that was drafted before, right? Henry Ruggs, Jerry Judy, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Rieger, Justin Jefferson, right? And then Brandon Ayuk was right after him. And I remember sitting in the stands with quite a few NFL scouts, right? Because they asked me my opinion. I told them, I said, Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in this class. Because I had watched everybody, right? And I sat there and told them.
Hmm.
And they were like, he's probably gonna run a 4.55. Justin Jefferson gets up there, runs a 4.4. I look at the clock, I look at my boy. Told the rest of the scouts, I said, Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in this class, and walked the hell up out of Lucas Oil Stadium, right?
Hey,
My
hey,
God,
Keith, who's the top paid wide receiver in the NFL now?
Mr. Justin Jefferson.
Oh, that's my boy right
So
there. That's
that's that.
that's a I'll double mic drop for you. That's a top moment, Keith.
I had
That's a
I had
top
to let
moment.
him know. I had to let him know, Mr. Marcos. I had to let him know. But let's end this thing. We're gonna end this thing we're gonna have some fun, right? Everybody likes to talk
Yep,
about the 40 times. So we're gonna have some rapid fire 40 times. I came up with my own numbers. Draft club, we set the own damn tone, right? So I came up with my
yep.
own number, right? So we're gonna go rapid fire. We have 10 names, right? So we're gonna
Okay.
roll through this. And we're gonna start with Ashton Genty, 4.5 flat, over under.
Under.
You going under? I'm going over. I'm going over.
Okay.
I think he's a 4.55 guy. He's not very
Okay.
big. I think pick him up, putting him down. He gonna take a minute to get that. I'm going for. I'm gonna go 4.54. I think that's what he runs.
Okay.
Let's
All
go
right.
this. We just talked about this guy, Travis Hunter, 4.42, over under.
Under.
You going under? Okay.
Yep.
You have a lot of conviction in these guys running fast. I'm gonna go over again. I think Travis Hunter's gonna come in there and run a 4.44. I think he's gonna run right above a 4.42.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback. So the 40 might not apply, but
Okay.
we gotta talk about it, right? How
Yeah.
fast
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders is? We have Shedeur Sanders 4.65.
So I'm going flat. I think 4.65. I'm going. That's what he's running. I'm not going over or under. I think that's 4.65 flat. We're good.
I like that.
I think you're right on the. I think you're right on the money.
I'm gonna go 4.65 too, right? And I made the number, so that's probably why I agree with it. Cam Ward. Cam Ward, 4.6 flat, going over under.
Under. Under.
You think Cam Ward's running under 4.6?
We're gonna slide in Indy. It's gonna be
Okay,
fast on the turf. That's what's
I'm
going
with that.
on.
I'm with that. I'm
Yeah.
with that. I'm gonna go over. I think Cam puts like a 4.62 down. I think he puts a
Okay.
4.62 down.
Okay.
CB1, Will Johnson, 4.4, over under.
Did y'all hear that?
No.
CB1. Just a reminder of who the Draft Network has as the best cornerback in the draft. Flat 4.4. That's what
You
I
going
got for Will
4.4.
Johnson. Yep.
This is my first under. I'm going under. I think
Woo!
Will
I like
Johnson is
it.
gonna put a 4.38 down. I think
Okay.
everybody's gonna leave here saying exactly what I've been telling him, that Will Johnson is in the same category with the Derek Stingleys, the Patrick Surtains. He's built of that ilk. I think he's like that. Let's go in the Big Ten again. Abdul Carter. Some people believe he's the best player in the draft. 4.45, over under.
Over.
You going over?
Yeah.
What you got? What you think?
Big man's gonna run fast, but he ain't running a 4.45.
I'm gonna go over too. I'm gonna go probably 4.4. I'm gonna go 4.48, right under
Okay.
4.5.
Okay.
Theodore McMillan, T Mac,
T
wide
Mac.
receiver one for the Draft
Yeah.
Network.
Wide
What you going
receiver
with?
one. That's
4.5
correct.
flat. 4.5 flat. What you going over under?
Under, under. And I again will reiterate wide receiver one for the draft network, just for those of you who are paying attention at home to the rankings. T Mac under on 4.5.
I'm gonna go flat. I think he runs exactly a 4.5. I think he runs exactly a 4.5. I think he could slide. Big boy. So I think 4.5 is gonna be good enough. Mike Evans comp for Theodore McMillan. Omari and Hampton, 4.44, over under.
Over.
You think over?
Over. Yep.
Okay.
Just slightly over. But
I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under, and I'm rooting for chaos. I think after this combine, there's a question if Ashton Genty is the best running back, because we're gonna look at the measurables. I think Omari Hampton is gonna push the threshold, and we're gonna see over under. For Omari Hampton, I'm going under. Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State, 4.62.
under.
You going under?
Yeah. 4.6 flat.
4.6 flat. Okay, I could take that. I'm gonna go over. I think he comes in at 4.64. I think good athlete. I don't see great yet, but we'll see. And we'll wrap this thing up with one of the more intriguing names. This guy, 6'4", 280 pounds, played defensive end, Shamar Stewart. We're going over under at 4.65.
Flat. 4.65. Keith's right on the money with this one.
I'm gonna go. This is tough because I really don't know what he runs. Um, I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go
Okay.
four. I'm gonna go 4.62. I'm gonna go 4.62.
If
That
he
he,
runs that fast, you know people are gonna lose their minds.
yeah,
Watch a
they're
big boy move like that.
oh 100%, 100%. With Paige Dimakos, there we have it, right? We knocked that out over unders. That was our combine. I guess betting, right? We set the tone right here, a little draft club, have a little fun. So we can revisit post NFL combine.
So, because what we looked at last year, Prize Picks did all the over unders, right? For running. And they're
Yep.
not doing it again this year because apparently the betting public took them to the woodshed last year, okay? Because
What they say, belt to ass, huh? That's the new
belt
phrase.
test, yeah. And those sports books, they like making money. They like taking your money. They don't like giving you your money. Okay. Don't get it twisted. They do not like to give away their money. So what I have thought about since then is what we're gonna do is we're gonna post something on the Draft Network's Instagram, and we're gonna post something on my Instagram and on your Instagram. We're gonna give away something for the fans who guess some of the 40 times correct. So look out for that later on this upcoming week on Instagram at the Draft Network, at the Sports Page, and at the Talent Code, or Coach K Sanchez. He's
There you
Coach K
go.
Sanchez. See, Coach K Sanchez on Instagram. Be sure to follow us, and you'll have an opportunity to win something since the sports books ain't giving you shit.
There we go.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Draft Club. For Keith Sanchez, I'm Paige Dimakos. This has been Draft Club for players only.